How's everybody doing? Is everybody's favorite conservative in New York, Christopher Wright. And what today is going to do, I'm going to present you another one of my momentous sit back and chat videos. I'm going to be brief today. I'm going to tell you guys about what's been going on. I've had a podcast I created called The Chris Wright Show, and I've done a few episodes, and I just recently got it out there on Simplecast, and it's been published. It's on multiple platforms. You guys have been asking me about it. I've been getting a lot of people checking out the podcast already. I didn't know they published it till today. They published it for about a week ago. So letting people know that I'll be doing a weekly podcast. At least once a week, I'll be doing a show for the podcast. And I also want to make a big announcement in regards to the movement that I have, the Turn New York Red movement. Big announcement. As you guys know, I had my Turn New York Red rally. It was past Saturday, I believe it was the 12th of this month, and it was a great turnout. Oh my goodness, an amazing turnout. Almost 200 people showed out. We made a lot of noise, but it was peaceful overall. We got our voices heard, and it was in front of the Black Lives Matter mural in front of Trump Tower. So we know we had to go out and make our voices heard against that whole thing. And I also made a video with my fellow friend and patriot, Dylan Roth. If you guys check out the links in my video, my live video here, you'll see. Hey, Vicky, how you doing? Vicky Palladino, everyone. Shout out to Vicky Palladino, a real patriot. But I also, my friend Dylan Roth, we worked on a video called for the Turn New York Red Rally Movement. It's our announcement video. I got a link below. Please check it out. It's the big announcement. It's an amazing video. He did a great job. He was designer, director, producer, everything on it. I helped produce as well. I'm in the video along with Bevelyn Beatty. So Bevelyn Beatty, if you guys, I know you guys patriots out there are a big fan of hers, with the Jesus Matters movement and at Well Ministries. Check her out. She's on the video. Myself. Derrick Gibson and my boy Eugene Boikai. He's running for a Congress position in Baltimore. So they're all in the video. Please check out that video, link below. You'll see, you'll go right to the video on Dylan Roth's page. And if you like it, remember to subscribe to his YouTube page as well. Support the man. He's a great patriot and does great work. All right, so let me get this started, this podcast today. And what I want to get started with is Black Lives Matter. People have been reaching out to me, asking me what my idea is on Black Lives Matter. Where do I stand when it comes to Black Lives Matter? Here's my whole stance on when it comes to Black Lives Matter. The term Black Lives Matter, of course, it sounds like, hey, what's wrong? Black Lives Matter is a great term. Sounds good to me. It works, Chris. What's the problem? I don't have a problem with the term itself necessarily. Of course, Black Lives Matter. So there's Hispanic lives, Asian lives, Jewish lives, all lives matter. So I don't have the problem with the term, but I have a problem with the organization behind the term. If you look at the organization behind the term, what do we see? We see George Soros money. We see Clinton Foundation money. So we're seeing these corrupt, entities behind the term Black Lives Matter. They're even linked already to the Democratic Party. So they're saying if you're donating to Black Lives Matter, you're actually donating to the Democratic Party and Joe Biden, the same Joe Biden that says you're not black unless you vote for him. So you guys got to look at the deeper picture when I see Black Lives Matter. I look at the same vein as I see Antifa. Antifa, for those who out there who don't know, it's supposedly a short name for anti-fascist. But you see how they act. They act with terrorist acts. They riot. They loot. All these crazy things. And how's that anti-fascism? That's how anti-establishment. You're actually destroying small businesses and regular everyday American citizens. So they don't represent anti-establishment. They say they are, but what their actions speak louder than their words, and their actions are not that of anti-fascists. And I feel the same way about Black Lives Matter. They use the term Black Lives Matter like they care about black lives, but when they participate in rioting, and looting at times, and getting physical, there's been over 20 black people who have been killed since the George Floyd incident. It's been about 6 or 7 months now. There's been about 20 blacks, that have been killed for the name of Black Lives Matter. So that's the issue that I'm having. And if you guys look at my Turn New York Red rally, if you guys look on my YouTube channel, just check it out. I have a rally that I did in front of the Black Lives Matter mural, like I mentioned earlier, on the 12th, right before Bevelyn Beatty came out with the black paint. Shout out to Bevelyn. And one of the things I mentioned was, because de Blasio, he tried to pass a law, or not a law, but some kind of, something he's trying to do, paperwork wise, where he's saying if you cannot protest in New York unless it's Black Lives Matter related. So until September. So no protest until September unless it's Black Lives Matter related, which is also always, obviously a political move on de Blasio, which is a communist de Blasio's part. But, so I came out, so I did Turn New York Red rally regardless. But when I did the rally, I made the statement of, okay, you guys are about Black Lives Matter, because I was in front of Black Lives Matter mural at the time before it got painted over. And I said, you guys are about Black Lives Matter, well, I'm about all Black Lives Matter. And I mentioned some names when I said that. The David Oak, the officer that was killed in front of his friend's business, who was a black small business owner. I mentioned his name, David Dorn. I'm sorry, and I mentioned a few other names that I had listed on an index card of people who got killed in the name of Black Lives Matter, and a couple of those names were children. So a couple of children have been killed in the name of Black Lives Matter. It makes no sense. So I'm like, if you guys are about Black Lives Matter, okay, fine. I'll be about Black Lives Matter for the sake of argument. If that's the case, I'm about all Black Lives Matter, including the lives that have been lost in the name of Black Lives Matter. What about those lives? You guys only want to talk about them because it doesn't fit the narrative of the white male cop killing a black person. It's black on black murder, so it's not that important. So it's like black lives are only important to the left when it fits their narrative, when it's something where they can use as a political chess piece and a maneuver. Then it's like, and obviously, of course, the white male police officer stories, they always bring those stories up, even if they happen 7 or 8 months prior. They bring it up around election season to get blacks up in arms and hopefully to get them to get the black vote. It's all pandering in an evil kind of way, but pandering unfortunately is pandering, and I see it a mile away, and that's why I came out to the Black Lives Matter mural with my group, the CRA, the Conservative Republican Alliance, who was ones who I found the group and I hosted the event, and I wanted to get out there and say that I'm not here to say all lives matter. We're all patriots. We're all American citizens here. And if you look at it at that event, Black Lives Matter eventually showed up at the event. I don't know if you guys seen the video, and please check the video out. But they showed up, and they kind of went back and forth with us for a bit. And when they showed up, not to bring up skin color, because it's all about content of character to me, not skin color. But if you want to go there with numbers, there was more minorities on our side, Hispanic and black people on our side, than there was on the side of Black Lives Matter. And I made that point kind of heard when I was going back and forth with them. And then I gave them a history lesson about Margaret Sanger, about the Democratic Party being a party of the KKK, about their party of slavery, party of segregation, party of Jim Crow, on and on and on and on and on and on with a lot of this stuff. So I, just gave them a good schooling. I got on the microphone, said a few words. Derrick Gibson came out, said a few words as well. Shout out to Derrick Gibson. Eugene Boikai, he came out, a guy running in Baltimore, a black individual. He's a real patriot out there, made his voice heard, man, and really made some great points as well. And shout out to Dylan Roth. He even came out there and spoke about socialism and really made some great points as well. So it was a great turnout, great speakers. Like I said, at the end of the day, it was peaceful, no drama. It was, some drama back and forth verbally, but nothing physical, thank goodness. Because my main goal with this whole movement, I want to do this movement at least once a month. Hopefully have a Turn New York Red rally once a month. And maybe not necessarily Trump Tower every single location, but switch it up, but do something where we go out there and get our voices heard all the way up to November. And my main goal is to be like something like MLK do, Martin Luther King. I want it to be a peaceful movement, peaceful rallies. We're not coming out there to do drama, burn buildings down, riot, loot, nothing crazy. We just come out there as patriots, getting our voice heard, supporting the president, supporting our country. And that brings me to speaking about supporting our country and not supporting our country. I want to talk about the radical left here in New York, because you guys, who aren't in New York might not be familiar with what's going on here in New York City. The crime rate here in New York has gone up by 600%. Just where I live, there's been 2 shootings I've heard. I'm in the Brooklyn area. There's been 2 shootings out front of my house. Unfortunately, one of them, life was lost. I heard the gunshots for both. It's unfortunate. People's lives are getting lost. The, robbery and crime has gone up. And it's just the fact that we have a communist mayor named de Blasio, and we have a mobster governor, Governor Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo, and they run the city where it's all about power moves. It's all about control. And one, like I said, runs like a mobster, other one runs like a communist. And that's why if you look at it, they don't get along personally. And if you look at the history of the country and the world, that mobsters and communists never got along. So what a coincidence. But I do have a little more respect for Cuomo in terms of, how he carries himself and how he governs. Cuomo, de Blasio to me is a pure rat. He did the whole Chaz 2.0. You guys don't know if you saw his videos on my YouTube where I went out to City Hall Park where they let him set up like a Chaz. Radical leftists out there set up like a Chaz situation out there, similar to what happened in Seattle, Portland. And, it was just disgusting. The first day I went out there, it was, they tried to make it look nice, serving great food, like in the area, local food in the area of Manhattan, all this great food. And, people look like that, like they worked in office areas and offices in Manhattan were the ones serving the food. And as time went by, to make a long story short, about 2 weeks later, I went out there again for update, and it was a crummy area. It just looked like, homes moved in and set up tents, and, people weren't taking baths. It just filthy. It smelled. It was not good. And that just shows you, the crazy extremes the left would go to in a place when you're in a far left place like New York City, just to try to make the president look bad, just to participate in it. And if you guys look, I know you guys are watching what's happening in Seattle right now. Seattle, over in, Portland, Seattle, it's been insane. what's been happening there. I mean, they just tried to burn down a police station there, and they had the feds come out, had to come and defend the station. And when the feds came out, you see the feds, they don't play around. The feds came out and they were arresting a lot of these Antifa, these radical leftists. They were beating them up. They were roughing them up. Not beating them up in an unnecessary way, but roughing them up, letting them know, hey, back off, back away from this federal building that you guys are trying to destroy and burn down. And even some of the local police officers join in and actually doing police work and helping out the feds and taking care of these radical leftists. But the thing is, I think a lot of the police there, local police, want to do the same thing and kind of carry it that way when it comes to dealing with Antifa, but they are told to stand down by leftist-controlled governments. And that's what we're going on in New York City. I mentioned Governor Cuomo and our Mayor de Blasio here earlier, but we also got Chuck Schumer. We got AOC, for crying out loud. I mean, you can go on and on about the leftist Democrats that run the state, and you can see why we're the hole we're in. And if you go to other cities and states around the country, you'll see the same thing. You look at Detroit, look at Chicago, look at Baltimore, look at LA, all ran by Democratic Party, all in similar situations when it comes to the inner city, when it comes to situations with crime and murder and just all the, a lot of insane, just crazy things that are going on across the country. And so I bring that up and I talk about it because it's very important. Because people got to look at it because elections coming up. And the reason why I wanted to do the Turn New York Red rally, a lot of people are telling me here, especially in New York, Chris, New York will never turn red. I was out there all day in front of, Teddy Roosevelt statue, out there fighting for that because they're trying to tear that down here on the left. So it's radical left here. But I think there's a possibility because if you look at the overall numbers in New York, upstate's red, Staten Island, which is one of the 5 boroughs, is a red borough. So there's a possibility. It's just going to take a lot of hard work and effort. And, as I see my MAGA hat, I got some, sweat stains. I've been out there doing my thing and letting my voice be heard out in the city, fighting for, the conservatism here in New York, because if we don't get our voices heard, there's nobody's going to do it. And, it's just something that I really want to speak on today. I want to really get out there and speak on these matters that's happening in New York, because a lot of people are getting affected by similar situations around the entire country right now. And, people are, it's getting crazy because some of these places are starting to let these leftists like Antifa and Black Lives Matter, who I consider just as much of a local terrorist group to Antifa. They're both local terrorist organizations. And the reason why I say that, because you, like I say, you follow the money. You see George Soros behind them. You see Hillary Clinton Foundation money behind them. You see a lot of money is getting funded to the Democratic Party. So it's politics as usual in that regard. And so if you look at these far radical leftist groups, and they're all playing a part of this evil, corrupt system, that is the establishment. The establishment they claim to be against. They're calling people Nazis and racists and all these terms, but they're the ones who are really the Nazis, the racists, the fascists, acting like the Gestapo. It's them. It's them. And they're trying to point at us like we're the evil ones, the corrupt ones. And that's why I'm trying to get people on the right to understand, like, it's okay to get out there and vote. That's what we have to do, get in the voting booth in November, get out there and vote for the president. Like I said, I want President Trump to win by a landslide, not just the electoral college, but the popular vote as well. I don't want no ifs, ands, or buts about him winning. Do not do mail-in vote. Get out there and vote for the president. Get out there and, stand in line if you have to, 3-4 hours. I've done it a couple times for presidents in the past, but let's get out there and get our votes and get Trump in there reelected, because the left is just losing their mind, man. And I'm in the city to tell you firsthand that it's not a joke. It's a real deal here in New York. And a lot of patriots out here are seeing the same thing. And that's why I kind of look at this whole Black Lives Matter mural that was painted out front. And it's not a mural. It's really graffiti. We all know what it is. And I look at the graffiti that was painted out front. And at first I was very upset about it, because I was trying to do my rally at City Hall Park because of Chaz 2.0. I couldn't do it there. So I went to Trump Tower thinking, okay, we do a lot of visit Trump Tower. Nobody bothered me there. When I go there, that's the day de Blasio was painting Black Lives Matter with a bunch of citizens there. Like, that's going to actually benefit the inner city in New York. Yeah, right. But that's the day he decided to do it. So I said, forget it. I'm still going to do the rally here. I did it. And it got a lot of attention. And a lot of people came out to support it. So I saw that a lot of people were just as frustrated as I am on the right about what was going on. And also, what I noticed is a couple of days later, as you guys know, Bevelyn Beatty, shout out to Bevelyn, by the way, and the hashtag Jesus Matters movement she's she's part of. And she's also a pastor at Atwell Ministries, and they go around the country just doing positive things, getting the truth out there the best they can. So quick shout out to her. But she was out there a few days after my rally, and she, if you guys didn't see the video, please check out her video. She has a YouTube channel, Bevelyn Beatty. And see how she painted. She had buckets of black paint, and she went out in front of the rally, the graffiti. The Black Lives Matter graffiti, and just poured paint over there. And she says, you guys don't think Black Lives Matter. You guys don't think Black Lives Matter. You don't care. You don't care about Black lives. And she was saying stuff like that. And the cops were trying to hold her back and kind of stop her for doing it. But she was being strong and being one of God's warriors, man, and really, fighting in the name of God and, doing what she had to do to make that statement. And what a statement did she make? Because if you guys look at the entire situation, there was while she was making a statement, there's a cop that grabbed her arm and she was trying to move because she was going back and forth with another individual there that was like probably a cameraman or whatever. And the cop accidentally slipped on the paint and he hurt himself and he hurt his shoulder. But just to come to find out, let people know he might be asking about that, the cop turned to be okay. He didn't hurt himself too bad. Everything's all right. And when she got arrested, because she did get arrested for doing that in Manhattan. And when she got arrested, you guys don't know, but there's bail reform here in New York. And the bail reform has been benefiting the Democratic Party here since for the past 6 months. Like the crime has gone, like I told you guys earlier, 600% here in New York. A big reason of that is because of bail reform. De Blasio literally passed a law here that said if you are a criminal and you can't afford bail and you get arrested, if you can't afford bail, that's fine. We'll release you with bail reform. And that was something they passed. And that's been, because of that foolish, move, crime has gone up drastically here in New York City. But the good thing that did come out of it, I would say this, is Bevelyn got arrested that day in front of for pouring the paint out on the Black Lives Matter symbol, graffiti out front of Trump Tower. And when she did, she got arrested, but they released her the very same day. And she even made an announcement on her YouTube channel that, well, she was arrested and she was, being held in the cell for, or I don't know if it's not necessarily, but she was being hold for a little bit of time, that the cops there were giving her a lot of respect or treating her like a queen. So it seems like the NYPD is fed up with what's going on with the radical left here. And I've noticed even when I got to different events recently that I've seen where I saw the NYPD out there, I thank them for their service a lot of times when I see them, because I know they're getting treated pretty bad, especially in leftist states like New York. And they've been kind of responding in a more, positive way to me. I mean, not saying they're just responding negative, but more like they let it be known that they hear what I'm saying. Like they say, hey, man, thank you. I see what you're doing. Thanks for your support. Like letting their words be known to us more often. I'm thinking they're doing that because they're fed up with what's been going on and how they've been treated. And not to mention they've been defunded $1.5 billion here in New York. Their group, the NYPD has been defunded. And they're feeling that, man. So they're feeling it. And I'm sure they're upset. I know I would be if I was in the force. And they're talking about taking away the dispatch for the 911 is one of the parts of the defunding, taking away. And you think who that's going to affect the most? Who do you guys think that's going to affect the most here in New York City? It's going to affect the inner cities. It's going to affect like the East New York area, the bad areas, areas in the Bronx, stuff like that are struggling. It's going to affect them the most. And this is what the, Democratic Party is trying to get done and try to get passed here. It makes no sense what they're doing. And so, that's, something that I said when Beverly came out and poured that black paint and got arrested and got released the same day, she went right back out to continue what she did. She went to Harlem, which is another part of Manhattan, did a drive-by, like black paint dumping there when she drove the car and drove by and dumped the black paint there. Then she came out here to Brooklyn over on Fulton Street. And I know Brooklyn pretty well. And Fulton Street is not the nicest little area in the world. She went out there 11 o'clock at night, guys, and poured black paint all over that. People came out, confronted her. She didn't back down. She got in a vehicle. She ended up getting away safely, thank goodness. Thank God for that. But she, really made a strong statement and got a lot of attention, and a lot of attention here in New York. And so the Black Lives Matter graffiti out front of Trump Tower initially was a bad move because, of course, de Blasio was a part of it. He's doing it politically, trying to make the president look bad. But at the end of the day, it ended up being good because a lot of conservatives here in New York now have our voices being heard. And the Turn New York Red rally is a big part of that. Bevelyn Beatty, what she's doing, Jesus Matters, and, the Atwell Ministries, what they're doing is a big part of that. But, like it is, we're here. And that's why I said I want to do the Turn New York Red movement. And for the people listening to me maybe on a podcast, I want to have the link as well so you can check it out. Please check out the video that Dylan Roth did. He created, the guy does graphic design, did an amazing job. It's a powerful video, and it's going to be the beginning of change because a lot of people here in New York, like I said, they tell me very often, Chris, New York will never be red. I don't know why you're trying to do this, why you're wasting your time. And I said, well, I'm sure there's people in California at one time that said California will never be blue. As you guys know, it's a very red state in the past, and now you wouldn't even imagine that if you go to Skid Row in California, LA, and Hollywood, California, and see the situation there. And, it's, very blue. So, you can't act like a state can't turn to another, from one political party to another. I mean, if we don't be careful, guys, we got to watch out for Texas because a lot of Californians are leaving California, heading down to Texas, and turning that slowly a little bit blue. So if we don't get out there and get our voices heard down in Texas, we might lose that. So I'm not foolish to believe that a state would never turn to another political party because one political party was strong in that state for a long period of time. So that's what I'm trying to tell you right now. So I'm getting out and fighting on my end for New York because I have a feeling, like I said, one of the 5 boroughs is red. Upstate New York is red. You would think New York was a red state, but the other four boroughs are blue. And people know, it's called the Empire State for a reason because Manhattan, they have a lot of pull here in New York City, especially when it comes to politics. But if we work hard and we get the voters out there, we can make some change and really make some real change here in New York for the better. Because you see, we got some fighters out here. We got some real patriots. Bevelyn Beatty, Dylan Roth, Derrick Gibson, myself, everybody conservative New York, Christopher Wright, getting my voice heard. Doing whatever it takes to bring real change. Because if we don't, it's who's going to do it? They're tearing down our statues. They're tearing our statues of Frederick Douglass. They're trying to tear down a statue here of Teddy Roosevelt. Eventually, that's when I came out on my YouTube channel. Check out the video. I came out there with Gavin Wax. Shout out to Gavin Wax at the New York Young Republican Club. He's a president there. He's an amazing patriot as well. He got out there, got his voice heard, and we got there, and we were able to get. Now they're going to court about that statue. Instead of just tearing it down, they're about to just tear it down. So after we got out there and got our voices heard, they said, okay, the government here stepped back and said, all right, we'll take this situation to court because we see there's people out here that don't want to see the statue torn down. So you'd be surprised what you can do when you get out there and fight and get your voices heard. Whose minds you can change, what attention you can get from what kind of people that can really, one person, all it takes is one person to create change, people. And I'm witness for that for myself. Bevelyn Beatty is witness for that. We're just doing God's work, and look what kind of change we're able to bring to a huge state with so many people like New York City. And you can do the same thing, doesn't matter where you're at. If you're in Detroit, if you're in Chicago, if you're in LA, if you're in Atlanta, all these areas where crime has gone up because of Democratic policies, because they're ran by this government, like I mentioned earlier, the Democratic government, and they don't care about minorities. They don't care about the black community. They don't care about black lives. None of these places, because they care. They've been governing these places on 50, 60, 70 years, and they're getting worse off by the decade. So it's like, and all of a sudden they want to come in every election and say, oh, Black Lives Matter. We care about Black lives. Let's do a few commercials and put Black Lives Matter ads. Let's kneel before a baseball game or a football game or something foolish like that. And what's with American sports doing that, by the way? What's with the baseball games with the kneeling and the football games with the kneeling? I'm bad with names, guys, but there's a Giants player, young guy, I believe he's a pitcher on the Giants, who didn't kneel during before the anthem. And the reason when they asked him why, he says, because, well, the only person I kneel for, I'm a Christian, the only person I kneel for is Jesus Christ. So that's a great point right there. And he also said, because, and also listened to Black Lives Matter on the website, and I saw some of their beliefs were Marxist beliefs, and I don't stand with Marxist beliefs. I stand with capitalism. So he made some great points, and that's how a lot of Americans feel. But a lot of Americans are just doing this Black Lives Matter situation because they want to follow the narrative. And a lot of these black people who are following the narrative are Christians or, people who have their different beliefs, but ignore those beliefs just in order to follow a leftist narrative. And of course, the Democratic Party sucks it up. That's their whole system, is they run off that narrative. So, I just wanted to get out here. That's why I said I wanted to do what I could to get New York's voices heard. My rally was a success. Like I said, future rallies are coming up, guys, so stay tuned. Please check out the Chris Wright podcast. I believe it's on Apple, Spotify, Simplecast. I'm going to have it on SoundCloud. I'm going to work on that as soon as I'm done with this video, get that out there. But please, if you like it, subscribe and share. Let your family and friends know, because I'm just out here to rep as many people as possible and get my voice heard to as many conservatives out here in New York before November elections, because elections are coming up, people. They're coming up here soon. And you see Biden, he's just laying in his basement somewhere with a mask on, afraid to talk. And President Trump is going out here fighting, man. You see that he's like 2016 all over again, while everybody in the media is making these lies, trying to manipulate the public to think a certain way about the president. The president is fighting back by, action speaks louder than words, and getting the job done, and getting laws passed, and getting certain things set up where it's like, he's acting like he's not dealing with all this drama. So I respect him for doing that. That's why I voted for him. That's why I support him. That's why I start the CRA, the Conservative Republican Alliance here in New York. You guys, please come out and support the movement here, because we're making some real change in the city, and we're bringing it, one borough at a time, like I always say. But that's the end of my video for today. I just want to reach out to you guys, let you guys know about the big announcements of Turn New York Red movement and the Chris Wright Show podcast. And I just wanted to, shout out to all the patriots out here: Bevelyn Beatty, Derrick Gibson, Josephine Valdez. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention her. She's a real patriot, and she made a great statement in that video as well. Check her out. She's in the video as well. She's a real patriot, and she's the one who did a Goya video about the whole Goya situation, and she just crushed it. And she, her video went viral because she was speaking truth, speaking from the heart. And she did the same thing for our mini video, making an announcement for the CRA. So check out what she had to say. Coming from a legal immigrant, I believe she was born here, but her family immigrated here legally. And check out what she had to say, because she made some very great points as well, from a real patriot. So, like always, everybody out there listening, God bless everybody out there listening. And like always, God bless the United States of America. Peace out.